You're listening to Tuning In with Jeffrey Kipple. And sometimes Mindy.
Welcome to Tuning In. Yeah, this is where we get to sit down and chat with authors and artists and musicians and creators and innovators and athletes and specialists of all types.
It is our hope to provide a platform for passion-fueled, purpose-driven individuals who want to make a difference in their own lives and in the lives of others. Others being you and anyone who's deciding to be tuning in to the lived experiences, the life lessons, and the discoveries that led to creations, innovations, and messages they want to share.
Yeah, so tune in, laugh, learn, get inspired. Tune in, tune in, tune in, tune in, tune in with Jeff and sometimes Mindy. Who's Jeff? I'm Jeff.
Who's Mindy? I'm Mindy.
Tune in.
So tune in, tap in, and take action. Tune in to their wisdom, tap into your potential, and take action to unleash your superhero. Welcome to Tuning In with Jeff and sometimes Mindy.
So tune in and enjoy the show.
Welcome to Tuning In with Jeff and sometimes Mindy. Today's show will be the one of the sometimes Mindy is here, sometimes Mindy is not here. Today it is just me, and I'm going to be sitting down with David Green. Welcome, David. I'm halfway through your book, and I've been really immersed in it. So it's cool to have you on the show today.
Yeah, thanks very much for having me. That's great to hear. It's nice that people get something out of it.
You finished it during the lockdown.
A big theme of the book is alienation and solitude, and it was written in that way. Writing is a lonely kind of thing, like as you were saying before. That's why it's great to talk to all the writers about it, because obviously when you, at the end of the day, when you go down to write, you are sitting on your own. I have general anxiety disorder, depression as well from a very kind of early age, in my early teenage years. I've kind of struggled with for a very long time. It took me until getting into my 30s to really kind of get a handle on it, and to be comfortable talking to it about other people as well, and kind of getting past that stigma of I'm male with mental health problems, and being like, I'm a strong man. I don't cry. I don't do any of this kind of stuff. I'm not worried about anything. And then realizing that actually, no, that's fine to have these kind of worries. And then when the pandemic started, and we were all kind of forced into this solitary life, where we, some of us were luckier than others, where we had families around us and everything, but there was other people that I know who were, living on their own for a very long time and couldn't see anyone else of all ages. It wasn't just, elderly people that were being cocooned and stuff. It was younger people, especially younger people, that I felt very, very kind of sorry for them throughout the pandemic. I live outside of a university town in Ireland, where a lot of people, Ireland's a small place and it's very rural, so you get a lot of people that will travel to the major towns and cities for university, and it's a big part of their life because they're 17 and 18 and they're going away from home for the first time, and it's something that they look forward to and count down to. And that was taken away from a whole age group for 2 whole years, right? And their university experience of their first step of becoming an adult was to stay at home with the parents in the bedrooms and study from far away. And I remember thinking about that and seeing it, and there in the title as well, in Solitude Shadow. So that was very much how it was written. I usually go 2 ways with this. I usually have a title before I start, or I get to the end of the book of writing something and the title is still, this is a book, or this is I've not figured it out yet, which can lead to some fun things that sometimes I ask people, like, readers, I say, I'm just thinking about this title or this title, which one do you think is better? But this one I had it from starting off very, very early on. because as I say, it's one of the main themes of the book. It's a multi-point of view book, so there's multiple characters that we follow, and we find them all in their lives alienated in some kind of way, and that is mainly from things they've done in the past, decisions that they've made, where it is either where one character is literally in exile in a place called Solitude. Someone else has just thrown herself into the work basically and try to forget, but is literally blocking people out of their lives by choice. And then someone else who is because he's protecting a secret for his son's sake, he is very much seen as a pariah, and he is in a very kind of solitary position as well. As he's in a place and doing a thing that he doesn't want to do. But also, he's also doing it to protect himself, which is something that he doesn't really want to admit, because he's a very kind of complicated character. He's quite fun to write. So that is like the main theme, but also that this nation that it's set in is very much a nation that is trying to push other nations away from it and be very kind of solitary, and we're seeing it in the world now when Brexit was happening, and so that was kind of informing that as well. And there's a place called Solitude as well.
I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying seeing how the story is being told from the different points of view. This is one of the first time that I've read a fantasy book that was having the lead characters who are female. So you're writing from that perspective.
Yeah, I chose to put the female characters front and center on this one, and that's her there. That's Colleen, who is one of the main characters. Just because, like you say, I read a lot of fantasy. Fantasy is my favorite genre of book, and it's very rare to read about female characters that are in the lead and that aren't involved in some kind of love triangle, or they're a love interest of another character, or they're doing something because of a male character, which is what happens quite a lot. So I wanted this story to be emotional sort of sense of the book, to be about this mother and daughter and their relationship, because it's unusual. And I thought it would be a challenge for myself as well, because it would have been easier to write about a son and father that are at odds with each other, because, you know, I can relate to it, for one, and two, you see it out all the time. You see it in every TV show and every movie and every book. There's always someone with daddy issues. So I was like, well, let's do mummy issues instead and see how that goes. The book is between a estranged mother and daughter. And we see both their point of views. We see the reason why they're estranged, or it's hinted at and discussed, and we see the different sides of it, where some people agree with the mother and some people agree with the daughter. And you know, I thought it was quite important to do as well, just to kind of let people decide who are reading it who was right about this, and if they can see the other person's point of view. Again, that was a conscious choice. I mean, there is male characters as well. Like, one of the leads is a male character who was the easiest one to write, to be honest with you, because he's a father, I'm a father, he's about the same age as me. We've both got regrets from our past.
It seems like there's a strong sort of family type theme carried through that. And from what you're just already saying, there's some personal aspect into that. Mm-hmm. So is the personal aspect reflected through the book? And second to that is, have you taken that and now been able to, basically you've reframed it from a perspective of a female character going through that experience?
Yeah, there's a lot of kind of me inside the book, obviously, because I wrote it, right? And my other series that I have, the urban fantasy one, there's a lot of, probably more of me in that one, actually, because the main character is very much just an exaggerated version of me, like, apart from the fact he's American and he has hair here and no hair here. It's like I just swapped it around like this. It's pretty much the same person. But yeah, so this one, I mean, the family is a big theme in it, and found family, and you know, is your family the people that you're born to, the people that have the same blood as you, or is it people that you meet along the way, and are they your family instead? Like, what is family? So that was a question. That's something that I thought about. I was seeing a therapist for a very long time when I was just shortly after I got married. Actually, I kept on having lots of panic attacks and everything, and I was diagnosed with general anxiety disorder. So I was talking to a therapist, and a lot of stuff then came out about, you know, my own stuff that I'd kind of repressed about family and other things like that. So this was, a lot of that was working in this, like putting this in it, but also as well, I'd become a father. And like my son, but when I started writing this book, my son was just turned 3. So he's got 2 going on 3. So, and I'm a full-time stay-at-home dad other than the writing. So, and that wasn't something that I'd have expected to see in my life, where I'd be like, I'll stay at home and I'll look after the kids. And it wasn't something that I'd ever expected. So a lot of that comes into this as well, with especially with the Cade character, where he has the young son, and he has to make decisions that he thinks are the best for his child. But really, are they the best for his child, or are they the best decisions for him? I've had people that have read it that have said, yeah, I agree with Zana, and other people have been like, I agree with Colleen, and other people say, well, what do you think, to me? And I'm like, well, if I wasn't a parent, I probably would have agreed with Colleen, but now I'm a parent, I probably agree with Zana, because it changes your perspective of things. So that is all in there as well, and a lot of that kind of stuff. I just find it like a very rich thing to explore, and it's kind of tropey, I suppose, in a way, to kind of drill into family. But I think as well, like especially with epic fantasy, which this is, there is big stakes and there's big world-changing stakes, and they will develop further as the series goes on. But I think what I wanted to do is I wanted to really ground it with the characters and have them have that as the story and the stakes and the action ramps up. I wanted the emotional journey to ramp up as well at the same time.
That's awesome. What was cool hearing you say is that you have people reading the book that they're even connecting with you or sharing with you how they would have done it differently, you know, in this situation if they put themselves into that character, which means that you've created, in addition to some kind of emotional connection there, you've also created some fans that truly delved into that world. So that's got to feel really cool.
Yeah, it is. I mean, the worst thing is when you make something is for people not to have any kind of reaction to it. You know, just say, yeah, that's okay. You know, you want people to really kind of enjoy what you do or hate what you do. If people really have that reaction from you, then it's like, that's great, right? And I have had people that have said, like, you know, the ending of this book has made them cry and stuff like that, and that they hate the fact that what I've done at the end of this book. And I'm like, good. That's what I want. You know, that's good. Because if you just kind of shrugged and what have you, then I would have been like, well, I've not done my job properly.
Yeah.
But you want to kind of get that emotional response out of people, and it's okay as well, because like I read a review of the book recently from someone who said it was really well written, well thought out, and everything. But because of the way the world is, that this reader wanted clear-cut heroes and villains, and this book isn't like that. There is some villains, but they have their reasons to do villainous things, and even the good people are kind of complicit in this world and this situation that they're in, with which it's a world that's very much driven by xenophobia and racism towards certain races that live in this nation, and there is an active genocide being carried out, which the main characters are complicit in. They have helped carry it out. So it's and that is something that will be explored as the series goes on as well. But I actually read the review and I was like, that's fair enough, because, you know, I didn't want to write. I wanted to write people that were people that had good sides to them, but also they went and worked for, and they were happy to go and do that, and because their life was okay while they were doing it, because that is life. And yeah, I like fantasy where it is very clear cut heroes and villains, and I like fantasy that is a little bit more in the grey area as well. So yeah, and that, it's about the arc as well. You have to give them an arc. So who's to say that while these characters won't realize that, you know, what they've been doing all along, when they thought they were a good person and they were like, well, you know, I don't really agree with this, but I'm not going to do anything about it. Maybe they'll wake up to that at some point and be like, well, I was part of the problem.
Did you make this into an audiobook as well?
It's being made at the moment, yeah. I've picked a narrator for it, which is great. She's fantastic, and she's doing a really good job. So I'm just kind of listening to bits of it as it's coming in. The funniest thing about it was having to tell her how to pronounce some of the names, and I've been told that I pronounced them incorrectly by people reading the book. So they're definitively going to be named in the audiobook now, and it's all from me.
Okay, so then what I find is that fantasy books that get into the very complex world building and descriptive of nations and characters in an audiobook format, sometimes that's hard to follow unless you're reading and listening at the same time, which is also really cool.
Yeah, no, I get what you mean, and I mean, I think it's I like a lot of classic fantasy. Like my favorite series is probably Wheel of Time, but then obviously I love Tolkien and all that kind of stuff as well. But they were very much of the kind of here comes a character and they're going to tell you about this place, and then there was just like, you know, a load of world building where it'd be like, this place used to be called this and it used to be called this, and there was a battle here and there's that there. I think kind of fantasy has kind of shifted a little bit now, where the world building has to be a little bit more organic. Now, I think some readers don't like that. It kind of, as well, they kind of think, well, this thing only exists until you mention it, which I kind of get, but also, well, I do like to do that myself. The stuff about the world becomes relevant when it becomes relevant to the characters.
Yeah,
right? Like it happens in this book. When it's relevant to the character and the story, then the reader will know about it. And until then, he doesn't want to stop the flow of the story by saying, like, this place, here's the history of this place. So that's kind of my style. Maybe if I'd started writing 10 years ago, I probably would have gone the other way, where it would have been like reams of description.
It's cool to have the histories introduced as it's relevant to the story, because in some ways it sticks a lot stronger. Right. So would you like to do a bit of a reading?
I'll start from I'll start at the beginning of chapter 2, which seems like a bit of a weird way to start, because there's a prologue and there's a chapter 1. But this is when Colleen, who is on the front cover, who is the lady behind me, that's when she enters the story. A long way from home. Look, Colleen said, thrusting a finger at the rat-faced innkeeper. I'm caked in filth. I fought Drockin elves all day yesterday so you could go about your life happy and oblivious to the horrors of war. And I've been travelling for hours through the forest of Drockin mists. Did I mention my head's pounding? I think my brain's about to escape my skull. I'm bone tired. Can I at least get change before you give me more problems for race's sake? The innkeeper shook his head, folding his thin arms across his chest. Rules are rules. Free board for sparkers so long as they serve a citizen's need. So says the Council of Sparkers and the Conclave. And I don't appreciate you taking one of the gods' names in vain. Colleen ground her teeth. She glanced over her shoulder. Vettigan, her companion and fellow Sparker, shrugged and sat by the fire. Despite the occasional difference in opinion, the old man remained her closest ally. Thanks for the help, Colleen thought, directing the words into Vettigan's mind with their link. Sparkers with a deep connection could connect that way, no matter the distance. It needed a high degree of trust and the courage to be vulnerable and let someone in. Other than Vettigan, Colleen had established a link with one other person, her mother. She pushed that thought away. You've got this under control, Vettigan sent back. You're younger than me. I require immediate warmth. He winked as he sat further into his cushioned chair, then closed his eyes and appeared to fall asleep. Colleen turned back to the innkeeper of the stubborn mule, the only tavern in the whole of Sikh village, and wondered if they'd named the place after him. Maybe he thought he had to live up to the title for appearance's sake. She stared into his pale blue eyes and forced a smile. The innkeeper flinched. She suppressed the urge to roll her eyes. Why do folk drock and react like that? Race give me strength. It's because your grin resembles a lioness bearing a teeth, Bergen projected, and the folk of Colton Duchy remember all too well the pain of Holtvelt absorbing them. They don't like us. Oh, drock off, Colleen replied, blocking the link and taking a deep breath. What's your name, friend? She asked the innkeeper. Manon, he replied, his voice a nasal whine. Never trust a Finn innkeeper, Colleen thought. Manon, she said, spreading her hands. Your little problem in the cellar ain't going anywhere, is it? Let me and my partner over there get settled, stuff some food and drink in our bellies. I promise we'll look at the basement tonight. Us sparkers need to recharge our magic. We'd be useless without a little nourishment, savvy? That wasn't true. Sparkers could burn out if they exceeded their limits, but so long as they were mindful and had external energies to pull from, the magic flowed. The innkeeper wouldn't know that. The Order of Sparkers weren't ones to divulge their secrets. Fine, Manon said. Room, food, and one drink each. Then you go down to the basement. After that, you can drink and eat till morning for all I care. Great, Colleen said, extending her hand. Manon eyed it before taking it in a slack grip for less than a beat of his shriveled little heart, like he thought her fingers would spit venom. What's the problem down there, anyway? Weird noises, Manon replied, narrowing his eyes. Started a few days ago. We don't go down there. It floods, so I don't use it. It's just a wild animal that's got itself trapped then. Colleen took the key Manon offered. And my friend's room? You're sharing, Manon said, with a grin that exposed the gaps between his rotted teeth. All I can spare. Tea for the gods, Colleen muttered, stalking over to Bettig and snoring by the fire. She kicked his shins and he woke with a start. Come on, she said. Our chamber awaits.
Well, that was cool because I just got to visualize this scene in a different way. What is your plan with this series? How many books and where you're at with that?
Yeah, sure. So it was created as a trilogy in mind, and I was very stringent with that when I was outlining it and everything. I was like, this is going to be a trilogy. And when I first started talking about it when it was first released, I was like, yeah, it's a trilogy. And when I've been writing the second book, I've been like, it's going to be 4 books. Because this was designed to be, the first book was designed to be like epic dark fantasy, but not epic in size. It was telling a story that was in a very limited time frame where there was something that is going to happen that has to be dealt with. And that was because it was one of those things, because obviously I was a first-time fantasy author. So we didn't want to come out with a 600, 700 page book first off from someone that no one's ever heard of. So please read this 700 page book from this person. So we're like, we'll start off with a 300 page book. So the second book was always going to be bigger, and it has become a bit bigger than what I thought it was going to be when I've been writing it. But it was just because I'm a bit more experienced now in writing, and I was kind of like, I want to kind of flesh this out a little bit more. I want to do a little bit more here, a little bit more of this character. So it was just, I was kind of like spreading my wings a little bit more, I guess, with it, because I was kind of like, I don't have to keep this one as short as the first one. I can go a little bit bigger. So it's going to be about 125,000 words, the second one. So I've been writing it anyway. And then as I was getting towards the end of it, which I am now, I aim to finish it next week, a week today, actually.
Oh, wow.
I was like, I have a lot to do in another book. There's a lot of story left to tell. And I could do it in one book, but it would be a 250,000 word book, which is fine for fantasy. But then also I didn't want to have to do a 300 page book, then a 450 page book, and then a 700 page book. I wanted to have some kind of consistency.
Yeah.
And from what I was thinking with the third book, there was 2 very defined kind of story arcs in it that I was just going to do in one book. And I was like, it wouldn't do it full justice if I just kind of tried to do them both in the one book. I need to let the second, both of them breathe a little bit. So I talked to my publisher. I was like, I'm thinking I'm going to do 4 books, and they were like, great, that's fine. You can do 5 books if you want. And I was like, no, 4 is fine. So it's definitely going to be 4. There's not going to be any more than 4. There might be more stories to tell in this world. I mean, there will be. The world isn't just going to end when this story is finished. It's just a story from this world, a pretty important one. But there could be prequels as well. I have got a prequel in mind for it that I'd like to do, like a little short novella prequel that is to do with Colleen and Zana. But yeah, and I have ideas for a set afterwards as well, which might be in other parts of the world and everything. But this story is going to be 4. So second book is out in June. It's called Path of War, and it's more complex. It's very, very dark as well. It's a very, very dark book. There's still little bits of humor in it, because I think it's important to have it in there. Especially the darker you go, you need to have those moments of levity. But it's big and epic, and it's complex, and it's still fast paced and still lots of action, but it's a bit more complex. We delve into more of the way things are, the mentality of the people that kind of live there, and that kind of duality of good people doing bad things, I suppose. The third book is going to be called Beyond Sundered Seas. And the fourth book is called, and the last book is called At Eternity's Gates, which, you know, that's you can't really do another book after a title like that.
Well, that's cool. You've given me the trajectory of what I can expect to read.
Yeah. It's like a journey. And someone said that I couldn't figure out that I had the name of the fourth book, because that was going to be the third one. It was going to be called At Eternity's Gates. So it was In Solitude, Shadow, Path of War, At Eternity's Gates. So when I was like, need to do this third one, I just couldn't think of a name for it. And I was like, I had a few options. So I asked some of the readers, and overwhelmingly they liked Beyond Sundered Seas. And they were like, it's like a journey, you know, Salt Shadow, Path of War, then it's on the seas and it's at the gates. And I was like, yeah, okay, yeah, I get it. That's good. I'll go for it.
In addition to your writing, I know you also do a talk show. You know, what's that all about, and how long have you been doing that?
So I've been doing that for a little while. It was, you know what it's like being a writer. It's all about a lot of times to get readers in. It's not because of the work that you do. It's also they want to know about you as a writer as well, and they want to know a bit about your personality, and they want to know all that kind of stuff. So I had, like, you know, we're all on every single different type of social media going. So I had a YouTube channel because I, with another author, we were doing a Wheel of Time show, which was I've read the books countless times, and this my co-host has never read them. So we were reading through them together and then discussing them from a writer's point of view. So we'd do like chunks of 8 chapters at a time, and we'd look at it and say, why do you think he chose to do this and this and this, and then talk about the series as a whole. And then when the TV show came out, we'd talk about the TV show as well. So it kind of started as a place to put that, really. And then I was like, well, you know, I'll put some of live readings and other things like that on there that I can do. And then I was like, oh, why don't I talk to other authors as well, put them on there. So yeah, that's where it came from. Because I know this is something that you enjoy doing. It's great talking to other writers to see their processes, and just to, especially like when it's ones that you've like read and you kind of really admire as well, and you think they're quite a higher step above you in terms of their skill levels and stuff, and you talk to them and they're like, I have no idea what I'm doing. Right? And it's kind of like, I don't know what I'm doing either. This is great to hear. It's good, but it's I always kind of finish a bunch of interviews with people, and I always have this like feeling where it's like, right, I can't wait to sit back down and do some more writing, because it kind of really energizes me and gives me like inspiration to go back to work.
What's cool is being connected in the energy of, you know, talking to other authors, being engaged on social media in different community with other authors. keeps you in the energy of writing,
Yes.
right? It's very powerful when you fully enter the world in that aspect of it.
It is, yeah, it is. And because I was there, I kind of little bit kind of got burnt out a little bit towards the end of summer 2021 because I've been writing pretty much non-stop since the start of the pandemic. But I was kind of got to the point, it was the end of the summer of 2021, I was kind of forcing myself to sit down sometimes and do some work. And I was like, I have to sit down and start writing sequels. And I've never written sequels before. And I was kind of like, had all these prior commitments that I'd already said I would do that were all kind of coming up. And I was just kind of flagging quite a bit. And then I went to FantasyCon in the UK, which was the first book convention that I'd ever been to, not even as a reader, but as a writer. And I was on like a bunch of panels and got to meet some other people and like people kind of my level that were just starting off, but people like Adrian Tchaikovsky and RJ Barker were there and other people like that. I'm just chatting to them, been on the same panels as them. And it was really, I remember coming home from that, I was getting the plane back to Ireland and everything. I was like, I had my laptop out and I was like, yes, like I've been stuck for ages. And I was like, I'm getting back. And I was like, just can't wait to get back into this and kind of get back on the wagon, I suppose, right? of writing.
Yeah, that's inspirational. So one last thing, you've got a mental health component message here with your, on the whole aspect of the isolation end of it. Do you want to share a little bit more of that and what you think an action step would be to do?
It was important for people to reach out to other people during this time. If you're feeling like you need to reach out to someone, do it. Don't be afraid to do it. And if someone is reaching out to you, then try and make the time. We know everyone's busy and everyone has their own pressures and everyone has their own things going on in life. It's a scary world that we live in. The pandemic's still there. There's everything that's going on in Europe at the moment and everything else that's going on in the rest of the world. So people do have those constraints on them, but if you do feel like you need to reach out. And if someone is doing that for you, try and give them the time to talk to them or just to listen to them.
That's awesome. And, if anything comes up where there's a story that you think really needs to be shared and people need to hear that too, then let us know. And both of you come back on the show, and share that experience and that story.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, perfect.
Okay, well, you keep us updated. Thank you again for being on the show.
Thank you for having me on. Really appreciate
You're very welcome.
I'm 100, a guy named Humphrey Bogart, come to be known as the greatest child.
How are you? We here at the Squid Research Lab are doing what? So you think you can defeat me, eh? Let's see if you can handle this.
The Ridiculous Adventures of Serbinan.
Hi, I'm Alan Irving, a UK-based voiceover talent. Are you looking for someone to bring your project to life? Or thinking of hiring a narrator for your audiobook? Then visit alanirvingvoa.com. Let's do this. He really is quite good, you know. Tuning in with Jeff and sometimes Mindy supports the Rethink Fit initiative, empowering you to take action to love better how you think, feel, function, look and dream. www.unleashyoursuperhero.com